So I believe I am ready to try to take down this ceiling thing. I watched a video on this online, so I think it's pretty simple. There's 4 of these little pins, pop-ins, whatever you want to call them. 2 in the back, 2 in the front. I just have to get under those, remove them, and then I think the rest of the cover is fairly easy to take off. So I'm going to get started on that now. Aha! And here we have that pin thing. Only 3 more. So there's like a light connection right here. I'm gonna unpin this so that when I take this down, it doesn't like rip that out. Okay, so now I have all of these pop-ins out. I'm thinking this should really just pull out. There might be another couple small pop-ins, but they'll be easy to remove. Turns out there was actually 6 of these, not 4. There was 2 small ones down here that I didn't see because I'm not really that short. So I'm just gonna try to remove it now. You can feel where the pop-ins are just by running your hands along it. There's one more. Something holding it in. Eee. Okay. That works. And there we have it. The ceiling thing is off. It's being held up right now, just it's resting on the side of the car. You can see on the top, there's this one little light wire that runs right down here. So it's good that I caught that and unplugged that first. But aside from that, this looks pretty good. It weighs absolutely nothing. If you look along here, you can see there's no insulation or anything under there. So I think I was right in wanting to take that off. This is a potential problem though. See this? This is some kind of airbag system. Those are airbags. So I don't know what I'm going to do about those. If I decide to put my own stuff over this, I am going to want to build this in a way where these airbags are still functional, I would think. So I don't know. I'll have to think about that. Maybe there'll be some information online about what to do about that, because I don't really want to put this back up. It'll match the front of the van, but it won't match the back, and matching the back is more important to me. But we'll see. For now, I just want to take this thing out, get the insulation in, and get started really working on filling out the van. So I'm excited. Catch you in the next part. So I have 4 of these 1" by 4" by 8" pieces of foam polyiso insulation. I plan on using this on the floor and the ceiling. So this is roughly 50, 60-ish square feet. This is 24, so I bought 4 of them. That's like 100-ish, 96 square feet. I figured that'll be enough, but we'll see. If I have to buy one more or if I have too much extra, it's fine, as long as I have enough. But all I need to do is lay that down on top of this. The tricky thing is going to be, I want to drill screws into some of these things in order to hold down the floor. I don't think I need to put a screw in every single one, because the dual purpose of this is to hold down the floor and also to give it support when you step on it. So I don't need to put a screw in every single one. But once I cover it with the polyiso and then the subfloor, I'm not going to be able to see them anymore. So I'm going to have to lay this down carefully and have some kind of a method for tracking where these are, or I'm just going to have to lay this down piece by piece and mark it. I'm going to have to do something. Here's the insulation laid nice and flat in the bed. Let me try to step over here. So I want to get this nice and snug on this wheel well. So what I think I'm going to do is I disconnected this. There was just 2 small pop-ins. Very easy. I think what I'm going to do is lay that on it like that, and then just trace along it and cut that out. And that should give me a nice snug fit around the wheel well. As for the rest of the van, I think that's going to be a little harder, but this polyiso I think is going to be super easy to cut. If you ding it just a little bit, it falls apart, so it should be super easy to cut and work with. And there we go. So something like that. Glad I looked up. Something like that. Hopefully, this thing actually fits. I've had to adjust my cuts a couple times, but I think I have it right now. I think it'll be snug, but it'll go in. How flush is that? It's sticking up a little bit, but I think with a little persuasion, it'll go down. So the only thing I have to worry about now is I'm thinking with this tape measure, I can just measure out how far the planks are and draw X's across this where I plan on screwing in holes, or screws I mean. But I'm happy with this. I'm probably going to get this marked up, and then I'll worry about doing the rest of the van. The rest of the van should be a lot simpler than these. These had the wheel wells, which complicated things, but I think that looks good. Okay, so I've been spending the past few minutes creating my marks for where the screws should go in order to connect into these planks. Thinking about the next step in this, the next step would be to take the subfloor I got, which the subfloor I got is just a 5mm thick plywood. The plywood would sit on top of the insulation and kind of be the actual support and floor that you would stand on, and that would endure the weight of whatever I put in the van. The problem is, whenever I put the subfloor on top of this, I then need to screw it down, but these marks won't be visible with the plywood on top of it. The plywood is not transparent, it is not glass. So I've been thinking about what I'm going to do, and I can think of 2 options. Option number 1 is there's nothing holding this insulation down, so I could totally just take this insulation out. The dimensions of the plywood I bought is actually exactly the same as these pieces of insulation. They're 4 feet by 8 feet. So I could just lay this insulation down on top of the plywood in order to mark the shape, and then I could screw holes in through these marks so that I could pierce through this insulation and into the plywood to create marks on the plywood, so that when I lay the plywood down, I still have my marks. The other option, if that's too much of a hassle, and if I don't feel like taking this out again, would be I could just create a diagram, measure how far these are from the edges, and then use that as a template for creating marks on the plywood once I lay it down. That sounds more prone to error, so I probably won't do that. I'll probably just, once I've done enough of this that I'm satisfied, I'll probably just take this out, lay it on top of the plywood, use that to cut the shapes and create the markings. But that is the plan. I just have to do the rest of the van. This was roughly, it's not quite half, not quite a third. It's in between, like 2/5 of the installation laid out. The rest of it's much more box-like. Doesn't have these wheel wells, so should be easy. I shall see you once I have a update to make.